we're going to go to a Dodger fan. This is the dancing peacock Dodger fans right here. This is Javi. He goes, here comes Roki. Darvish going to cry himself to sleep next year.
Oh, isn't it great? We have a Dodger Padre rivalry that's now really important, that we're in the offseason and Dodger fan is insulting Padre fan. We'll see. The fact that he comes for an affordable contract at $2.5 million because he's an underage, if you call it underage free agent, this is really, really unique. But, he's got a relationship with Darvish. He knows Preller. But then again, that is Ohtani on the other end of this phone line making this call, and that's Yamamoto, whom he knows, whom he pitched against a year ago. I think he's going to Dodger Stadium, but I'd never rule out the Padres. But the fact that everybody can only pay this amount because he's not a true veteran free agent where he'd get the bigger amount. So everybody could be in the mix is what's important to him. Dodgers, World Series ring, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Dodger history and tradition with all these great pitchers that came from the land of the rising sun. I think Dodgers.
Unless he's a contrarian.
Like
wants,
you.
Yeah, like me. So wants to try, like, hey, I'm going to help out another team be competitive.
He's not going to the Miami Marlins.
Well, he's not going to do that. I mean, he's going to, I would imagine, West Coast or New York. But yeah, he's going to have his pick of the lot because everybody can afford him.
Mm-hmm. But that's Dodger Stadium with a World Series ring right there.
How do you compete against that?
I concur with you. Javi, we'll see where this one goes. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so this next one's from Mr. Classic Think Tank, and this is when we were talking about the Padres, and do they have catchers available? And he says Travis d'Arnaud is still available.
He was not offered a contract. They're letting him go as a free agent. Atlanta's they've got some monster money issues with other players. d'Arnaud is solid. His brother played here as a utility man, a shortstop with Chase d'Arnaud, was a nice guy. Travis can pop some home runs. There will be veteran catchers out there. And if indeed Higashioka goes back to Yankee Stadium, he's going to ask for a pay bump. I know that. He's not going to play here for $2.7 million this season after a really good season. The Yankees, I thought, really missed him. Although the Yankees got a really good catcher. Actually, there's a kid from out here, Austin Wells. Mm-hmm. But they're looking for another veteran. So, there's so many moving parts here. You could say, okay, Higgy is going back to Yankee Stadium. Fine. We got Campusano. But if Campusano gets thrown into the Cronenworth deal for Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, now the Padres have a huge hole, unless they're going to have the Rockies catcher Elias Diaz be there. But you can go get catchers. I don't know, get an all-star. But yeah, d'Arnaud's name is out there for sure.
How serious is the rumor of Higashioka going to the Yankees? Because I would think he'd want to be in Southern California. This is where his family is.
Exactly.
So why not stay and, just give him a pay bump, and make it work?
Could well happen. I mean, he was a pleasant surprise. At 17 home runs. Now, I thought he played really well for the Yankees the last year and a half prior to coming here in the big trade for Soto. But money talks, people walk. So he's very familiar back there. But, maybe they guarantee him he is the starter here. Maybe he stays. Only time will tell.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go here to J.O. And he says, I don't understand why the Chicago White Sox would take back Cronenworth. He doesn't fit their window.
They need some form of veteran player to stabilize their infield and their batting order. I mean, they've wiped the slate clean. At one point, they had three of the most promising young outfielders that they had gotten out of the Caribbean, and all of them are gone now. Well, Luis Robert is still there, but everybody else is gone. Eloy Jimenez, etc. So they need veterans. The only problem that would hold this deal up, I was told, is that they'd want the Padres to pay some of Cronenworth's contract because Cronenworth had the 7 years, $70 million extension. And I don't think the White Sox want to pay $10 million per year. But if the Padres want Crochet, who could be a cornerstone one or two guy at the front end of this rotation, they're going to have to overpay somehow, some way.
But Crochet was only going like 4 innings.
Well, that was because they're trying to protect his arm, because he used to be a reliever, converted into a starter, and was really dominant the first half of the season. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of shut him down and they put him on an innings limit. He pitched 4 innings out here in September against the Padres, and he was dazzling. And then they took him out of the game, and they lost the game after they took him out.
Yeah, he was good then. Yep. But wasn't he like demanding that if he got traded, he wanted to get a bonus if the team went to the World Series.
Yeah, he wanted a contract extension immediately, and then the White Sox said, "No, we'll just finish the season." They wanted the entire offseason, and they laid the groundwork. The Winter Baseball general managers meetings just concluded San Antonio. I have no doubt that they started taking offers for Crochet there. I mean, Crochet's name is being mentioned with the New York Mets too.
Well, I mean, if you were the White Sox, would you rather have Crochet or like Cronenworth and Campusano? I think I'd keep Crochet.
Yeah, it just depends how many young guys are in the deal. If it turns out to be 3 for 1 or 4 for 1, and you get a couple of real hot prospects, then maybe you do that. Because they're not going to win with Crochet as the cornerstone for the next couple of years. But if you get yourself 2 really established young front of the rotation starting pitchers, and you get some veterans, makes you a better team. Last year, I mean, you do the math. 3 for 1, 4 for 1 for one pitcher, if they're the right guys.
Okay. All right.
I mean, think about the Soto trade. Think about everything the Padres got, led by Michael King, and then what they used to get Dylan Cease, and that turned out to be a win-win on both fronts for the Padres.
Yeah, it's creative ideas too, because we're worried about if they can sign everyone. But if you unload Cronenworth, then suddenly you have a little more cash on your hands, and Crochet is not that expensive yet, right?
Not yet. Not yet. One more year arbitration, I believe.
Okay, so that they're going to have to figure out something creative. One of our guys that we like is not going to be here.
The problem is the Mets are in on this now, and the Mets have got all kinds of ways to creatively finance contracts and creatively move guys in deals. So we shall see. Winter baseball meetings come up in December. We'll be talking about that too. Next question.
Okay, here we go. And this is from a Dodger fan. And by the way, we got something goofy going on with our StreamYard streaming software. It just says Facebook user instead of their names. So I'm not sure who this is. What will be the range of the Dodger payroll heading into 2025? Will it exceed $300 million?
Well, I think it was by the time they got done, it was 290. And they're not afraid to pay the luxury tax. But remember, there's a bunch of contracts coming off the books. Bueller's contract is off the books. Teoscar Hernandez, which was $23 million, is off the books as of we speak right now. Kershaw is off the books. There are going to be some other guys who won't count. So they'll be rearranging the money that was spent here, and they could go somewhere else and spend it. Only time will tell. I mean, Teoscar's asking for 3 years, 70, and he's 32 years old. So I don't know if the Dodgers want to go that deep on that type of long-term contract with Hernandez. But they're obviously going to have to go get a bat if Teoscar is gone. But that's why all these other names are out there. So, but money's no object at Dodger Stadium, like money is no object at Yankee Stadium, and surely money is no object with the New York Mets. The Mets have over $120 million now in budget space for free agency, and they led all of baseball with payroll last season at well north of $300 million.
So the Mets budget is way beyond that third salary cap.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how in the hell Cohen must be digging deep into his pocket, but
he's got deep pockets.
Okay,
no big deal. Hal Steinbrenner is the one that made the comment, I don't like this luxury tax payment we're making every year. We need to come down underneath the threshold. And that's what they did last year. So now they hit the reset button and go back over it. Padres hit the reset button, but they don't want to go over $200 million.
Yeah. I mean, I understand. It starts affecting your draft picks and everything else. Teoscar Hernandez is making 23 a year now. And if it's a 3-year deal, that's like $70 million. So it's hopefully, I mean, he deserves to be paid that. I mean, the home run champ too, so, but what about Tommy Edman? Is when he came over, do they still have another year on the deal?
I think they do. Yes. He's not a free agent.
That's a hell of a player too.
He's going to be their starting shortstop, I assume, with Mookie Betts going to second base.
And Gavin Lux wondering what end is up.
Outfield, trade somewhere. You got Lux, you got Outman, you got Pages. They don't have any outfielders right now. If Teoscar's gone, they got potentially 3 openings or no stars. But again, you go back where the Dodgers go back in the marketplace, you make another deal.
Well, they have that. They have one really good prospect, don't they?
Yeah, it's a converted catcher, Dalton Rushing, but he's never played the outfield at this level. He just converted to outfield last year in AAA. So only time will tell.
Interesting.
But there's so many. There's 156 veteran free agents out there. There are guys to go get. And the Dodgers not afraid to spend money.
All right, let's keep going. Okay. Also, another Facebook user, spot on again, saw Herbert is going to get killed if they can't protect him better. He's a big kid and can deliver a shot, but I'd really hate to see him take a hit like Tua in Miami. Give him 3 seconds in the pocket, O-line.
I'm a little bit disappointed in the offensive line. I do not understand with 3 number 1 draft picks why they're getting beat on blitzes, why they're on stunts and some of the moves. If you watch the line play, you will see guys scraping off, coming as second blitzers, getting straight shots at Herbert. Now, Herbert's so athletic that he can bust some of those things and pull off big runs. He had 34 yards rushing against Tennessee. To me, he's taken way too many hits. Hey, they're 6-3. They've earned it, but now they start to play real people, and that's a big, big issue because they're playing Cincinnati, and then they're playing Atlanta, and then they're playing Kansas City, and they're playing Tampa, and they still got to go to Denver. And I mean, their schedule is pretty doggone rugged in the next 5 weeks.
So let's go through the list. There's the number 1 draft picks on the O-line is Joe Walt. There's Jackie Slater, not Jackie,
Rashawn Slater.
Rashawn Slater. Is there any relation? No relation.
No.
And then the third guy is Zion
Johnson, left guard.
Okay, and that was Zion Johnson was the one that I think a lot of the Charger fans were really upset about. They were saying he was like a turnstile, just letting guys get past him.
The center is, to me, the weak link. He's a 1-year veteran. Bozeman came from Carolina. The right guard, Pipkins, he's been erratic, but the whole line. I keep track of these things. The whole line, they all get beat. They all get beat on blitzes and pass rushers out on the edge. And I don't think they've played consistently dominant offensive line football for a team that's got 3 number 1s. And now we're going to find out because they start playing real people next Sunday night against Cincinnati.
You know, it's an interesting thing happened in the game yesterday. And who's that new receiver they got? Ragnar or
Rieger came from Philadelphia. Kind of a journeyman, was in Philadelphia, was in Tampa Bay. He can fly, drops passes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's how I thought of him. But he had missed a pass and dropped it, came back to the huddle, and the camera angle was such that you could see him standing next to Justin Herbert, and Herbert is huge.
6'6".
That guy is
and he runs.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he's got great speed, long strider. I just think he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, how do you compare Josh Allen or Justin Herbert? Who do you like more?
Well, Allen's a big physical specimen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Allen wasn't a quarterback, he'd be your strong side linebacker kicking your butt. He'd be beating on your tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Allen is a much different guy, much stronger, more physically. But Justin Herbert he's more athlete than he is just stud. I just think he's a great quarterback, which alarms me because he does run a lot. He opens himself up to taking shots in the pocket. He stands in there, but he's so gifted. I don't know if people can appreciate it. I mean, we've been spoiled. We had Dan Fouts and we had Phillip Rivers. And I mean, they were 2 stars, very different type guys. But this guy he's really different. And he's so smart. He's had, I think, 5 or 6 different offensive coordinators from Oregon through the NFL. No problem. What's the playbook? Got it done.
Right on. Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's not like me. I know he's not like you intellectually.
All right. Moving on. You're always taking shots here, Lee. Okay, let's go to Angel. Back in September, I did say that Bo Nix and the Broncos will be one surprise team. Don't mean to toot my horn, but toot.
Go ahead. Stand up. Thumbs up. Bo Nix is coming at a lot faster pace. He's intellectually smart. He's got great feet, moves the pocket, sees the field very well. He's got some guts in him. Not afraid to take some hits, not afraid to run with the football. But boy, he and Sean Payton just seem to be on the same wavelength. And I'd say in the last 2 to 3 weeks, what's changed in Denver, I always thought the receivers were just real underachievers. And I saw things in the last couple of games from Cortland Sutton, their big 6'4" wide receiver, I've never seen. I mean, you talk about running routes and running over people and tough yards after catch. Sutton's doing things I did not ever see. And he was a very highly regarded pick coming out of college. And they got tight ends they throw to. So fast track. I mean, Sean Payton, I think, drafted a, quote, student to the game. And Bo Nix he's he's a tough hombre too. In addition to, I think, really being not only a smart guy, but I think he's a bit of a firebrand too. I think he's a pretty what's the word I'm looking for? John, bail me out. In the huddle, very dynamic leader.
Oh yeah, for sure. You get that vibe from him. But now looking back at all the quarterbacks that went in the first round, I mean, if you had to redo the draft, do you think Caleb Williams would be number one?
Well, the problem, there's a stunning story in Chicago. They've not scored a touchdown in 3 games now with the kid quarterback. 23 possessions without an offensive touchdown.
Wow.
But that's a byproduct of they got all 5 of their offensive linemen are hurt. They've either been knocked out or playing on one leg. So he's running for his life. He's taken 18 sacks in the last 3 games. And he's kind of like a deer in headlights right now. I still think he's so gifted athletically. And he started so well when everybody was healthy, and now the whole thing is eroded around him. So I just think this becomes a washout season in Chicago because of all the injuries. Jaden Daniels, to me, that's the stunner. I didn't think this was possible because I thought he was a great college quarterback, but he was going to get busted running as much as he did in the NFL. But he's running like he did at LSU, and he's not making mistakes. So, I mean, intellectually, he is really ahead of the curve. I mean, we're going to week 10. I think his quarterback rating is like 110 or 112 right now for a rookie on a bad team. I mean, I don't think anybody in the world can name any of their offensive skill players in Washington. Terry McLaurin, Ohio State. Austin Eckler, part-time running back.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's what they got. And yet Jaden Daniels has him with a 7-3 record, and he's not making mistakes. So he's been impressive. The guy that's come quick in a bad situation is Drake May in New England. He's playing better and better, and he's a big stud. And they're not winning a lot of games because he doesn't have a lot of skill people, but he's not screwing it up, and he's getting pounded. But he's so big and physical. He's able to hang in there and make some plays. So it looks like the Patriots may have gotten themselves a gem at quarterback, but their roster is so ragtag. It's terrible. And then obviously what Bo Nix has accomplished. So, those are the marquee names at the top of the draft board. It's so hard when you go to a bad team and your number one quarterback and so much is expected of you, and you can't do it by yourself if you don't have people around you.
Yeah, I mean, I just love seeing the young kids have success when they have that it factor and they can make it work.
That's the correct word. Justin Herbert has the it factor. I think Bo Nix has the it factor, and maybe that's got something to do with playing in the Oregon system. I don't know.
Maybe it does. Let's keep going. Talk a little more NFL quarterbacks. What was wrong with Jared Goff, even with the win?
Well, 5 interceptions, but I think 2 or 3 of them were tip balls. So I don't think he was forcing things into coverage. He had some balls that came off hands or off shoulder pads. One might have been tipped at the line of scrimmage, but it is weird to see 5 interceptions in one game and your team won. Because maybe I jinxed him. Didn't I use the word last week, bulletproof?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was not turning the football over. He had his quarterback rating going into that Sunday night game was 111, which is really, really good. So I just think there was a one-off, but they won the freaking game. Houston's got to be heartbroken to have all those takeaways and not win the game. But Houston's offense disappeared in the second half. Holy cow, Detroit just strangled them. C.J. Stroud just, they couldn't move the football. So that was such a strange game. Like I said, there were 5 interceptions in a 7-possession series in the first half. Pick. It's just amazing.
Well, I remember one of them, the ball was tipped, went in the air, someone else tipped it, and then it landed in one of the red jersey players.
Yeah.
It was an amazing game. It was a lot of fun to watch that. But I want to just say, I talk a lot about Dan Campbell and how I like his vibe. D'Amico Ryan is also another special coach.
He's a smart dude.
Yeah, he is.
Came from Frisco.
Yeah. So, made that game last night really entertaining with those 2 coaches.
The problem I've got in Houston right now is their top 3 receivers. Stephon Diggs is gone for the year now with a torn knee ligament. That whole deal blew up in their face. Nico Collins just came off the injured reserve list, and he's trying to play back from an injury. And the third guy, Tank Dell, was hurt before with the knee injury. He's back, but he's not. He's a slight guy. He's smaller. He doesn't quite look like he looked a year ago when he was catching everything. So they should be in the playoffs unless there's a total collapse coming, but they don't seem to have all the guns working. The heavy-duty running back, Joe Mixon, has kind of saved them because he's given them what they haven't had, a tough guy running back. He, of course, came from Cincinnati.
They've come a long way.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
And C.J. Stroud, I think, is a really quality quarterback.
He really is. And there were a lot of doubts about him when he was drafted. So good for him to be a survivor.
Next question.
Let's go here to Callan. He says, I was going to ask Lee, have you ever been involved in a spat with a player like Marcus Hayes with Joel Embiid?
I usually respected players. And when I was doing talk show radio, they all listened and they'd come back to me. I think the biggest incident I ever had was with Rodney Harrison of the Chargers, the Pro Bowl safety, because he was a headhunter when he came in the league, and he got himself a lot of personal foul penalties, and they got socked with a huge fine. And Bobby Ross criticized him on my talk show, and then I said something to the effect of Rodney, somebody should use the name. What was the New England wide receiver who got paralyzed with a head injury, a neck injury?
Oh, that was with the
Ohio State kid.
Yes, that was with the Jack Tatum got him, right?
Yes. You asked me too quick. Anyhow, I said Darryl Stingley. I said somebody should tell Rodney Harrison about Darryl Stingley, because Rodney was launching and using his head all the time. I mean, and he killed a tight end from Cincinnati on a shot over the middle, and Rodney got hit with a huge fine, and that led to the controversy. And I made a comment on the air. Somebody should explain to him about Darryl Stingley. And Rodney got in my face on the next road trip, stopped me on the tarmac and said, "Why did you say that?" And I said, "Because the way you're playing, you're going to get yourself hurt." And Darryl Stingley became a paraplegic because he took a vicious, unfair hit. For the sake of your wife and her kids, I don't want to see you paralyzed. And that was the end of the conversation. And we stayed friends. But we've had some issues along the way. I've had issues with other people. The biggest issue I ever had was with a columnist in Phoenix who had criticized. I was a voice of the Sun Devils doing Arizona State football. And we were going to the Rose Bowl, and we had a tough game. We lost at home or something on a blown play. And this columnist just wrote something horrible about the Sun Devil football team. And I made a crack on the talk show. His gentleman's name was Bob Hurt, was a senior columnist, older guy. And I said, I know Bob Hurt had been in the hospital for a while, and he had had a blood clot. And they saved his life, and that is great. But they must have missed something else, because how the hell could he write this about the Sun Devils? So we were on a road trip, and we're in Arizona. He came down the press box into the radio booth, and his face was red, and he was screaming at me, grabbed me by the throat.
Really?
Yeah. And then he let me go. And he said something to the effect, "You were wrong." And I said, "No, I wasn't, Bob. What you wrote was cheap." And he said, "I'm sorry I acted this way." I said, "You should be sorry." And then he left. And he had me by the throat. I'm not going to start throwing punches against an old man. I shouldn't do that.
Well, it seems like in your history, and especially here in San Diego, there's always been controversies with you and other media guys.
No, some of it was jealousy, some of it was stupidity, some of it was the philosophy of the columnist. Let's go get the guy at the top and let's just write crappy things about him. And why? Because you disagree with something I said. That's fine. We could disagree, but and for the most of them, I stayed friends with most all of them. Some I didn't, but there was a guy in Phoenix who's a senior columnist at a paper. His name is Tom Fitzpatrick. He just kept writing horrible things. So I started referring to him as Trash Can Tom nonstop. And then the people at the Arizona State games would hold up a sign, a picture of a garbage can, Trash Can Tom.
They did?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, and he's making reference to the Marcus Hayes, Philadelphia Inquirer, Joel Embiid story. And I thought Joel Embiid that's columnist was way over the line, making reference to Joel Embiid's deceased brother who was killed and his son. I mean, you can criticize the player for being a bum and all that, but don't drag the family into it because they're innocent people. So you have to draw a line in terms of sports commentary. The other thing, if you're going to do this, you better have the courage to show up in the clubhouse or in the locker room. If you're going to say something negative about players, critical, whatever, face them. Got to face them. Some will be angry. Some will just say, "Oh, you're just doing your job. That's okay." But my stuff, for the most part, was never really ever personal, outside of the Arizona Republic guy that grabbed him by the throat.
Can you describe for me your relationship with Jim Rome?
Kind of unique and different. I was always friends with him. He did well. He had a great career that moved on. He wound up doing the job that I turned down. The people that owned 690 came to me at the height of my popularity and our station's great success and say, "We'd like to take your show national." And of course, I was doing a national type talk show with guests and comments and the whole 9 yards. And we met and we met and we met. And we talked about it. And I came back to them finally and I said, I have a question. I'm doing an afternoon drive. We're knocking down phenomenal ratings. Why would we want to convert my West Coast based talk show into a national talk show where we're taking calls and then we get Detroit Red Wing fan wants to ask me a question about the Red Wings in the middle of my afternoon drive show on the West Coast? That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought more about it and they said, yeah, we'll leave it where it is. And next thing you know, they talked to Rome, and Rome was doing the night show at that time. And they said, what do you think about this? And they eventually evolved into Jim. And then they moved Jim to mid-mornings, midday, which is a different time slot in other parts of the country. And he went national. It took him a while to find traction. And we got along okay. I got along really well with his wife. Jim left, and he didn't leave on good terms with people at the station. He was off on his own career, and that's great that he accomplished what he did. But I think he left a bunch of hurt feelings behind. He never said goodbye to anybody, just kind of took off. And he took one of the producers, and he didn't treat the producer very well. Producer came back to work for us again. And then Jim was off on his career. And then I told you the story about the Jim Everett interview in the newsroom. And a lot of people didn't like Jim Rome at that point. And when he made the comment about Chrissy Everett and Jim Everett stood up with his fist clenched, there was a hell of a lot of people in the newsroom were hoping that Jim Everett would throw a punch and knock down Jim Rome. And Jim almost lost his TV job. And his TV job got saved because one of our guys, Chet Forty, went to bat for him.
Really?
And then Jim changed, and he's done great. And if you like what he does, that's great. If you like what we do, that's great too. Everybody's got different strokes, different folks.
I've always liked Jim Rome. I remember following him when he was only doing the Scrub Saturdays when he in the very, very beginning. But you and he seemed to me sort of like brothers that were rivals in a way.
We're all rivals.
Yeah, because you're all like, whose talk show is better? But they were different. You guys were different. The way you are excellent at what you do.
Damn right I am.
And Rome is really good at what
he's found his own niche.
Yeah, exactly.
I concur. It's too bad because all of us who worked at 690 for a long time have now evolved into this podcast or TV or retired or out of work. But I think we all now have a real special appreciation for what we created at 690 as a legendary sports talk station when nobody else in the West Coast had ever been able to do it. And nobody's ever been able to rebrand what we rebranded. And Romy's the only one that's not part of that conversation. He's just not part of us. And now he's living in Los Angeles. He has a different life. He's on TV and all that. But he never came back to, be part of the guys. We throw Christmas parties and get together and when we can. But he's never, ever been part of that, which is too bad. But he did well. He's done really, really well. And he used to bang on me. He called me butter knife. Okay, that's fine. No problem with that, sir. As long as you're talking to your people about my show, that's okay. But boy, he got pissed when I said, that TV show, Welcome Back, Kotter?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the guy, Arnold Horshack? You remind me of Arnold Horshack. And exactly.
Yeah.
I used to walk down the hallway and say, Horshack's in the building. He got all upset about that, but he's done great. He's had a great, great career. A whole bunch of us have done a lot of really cool and diverse things. And when it was all happening, we had no idea that we could make the legendary Extra Sports 690 what it became. And all of us now take a step back and say, wow, we really did something different in the industry because I have management people, program people, they come to me all the time and said, how did you guys accomplish what you accomplished? So we'll tell that story sometime. But, if Romy walked in here, we'd say hi and talk and probably tell some old stories and tell some lies and it'd be okay. But he's had a great, great career. For somebody who looks like Arnold Horshack, I think he's done well.
Yeah, he's done all right. Yeah.
Okay. How about a couple more here?
Okay, let's go to Manny. Talk a little college football. What are the chances the Big 12 kicks out Utah after what happened this weekend? If they do, maybe a reunion with the Pac-12 may be in order.
Nah, they're not going to kick him out. They fined the athletic director $40,000. I only saw one angle of the video, and it looked like it sure was a blown call. There was two plays in the fourth quarter of the BYU game, right at the end, that the officials, I thought, botched, which then led to a BYU length of the field drive that got Brigham Young the game-winning field goal to beat Utah. That game was in Salt Lake City before an all-time record 54,000 plus fans in Rice Eccles Stadium, and the athletic director lost his mind at the press. He held a press conference and he just ripped the Big 12. And the Big 12 late last night fined him $40,000 and put him on warning. You never do this again, or you'll be suspended. That's he overreacted, but it was a tough game. But BYU was on the brink of losing, and there were two controversial calls on the final drive that allowed BYU to get first downs and it kept the drive going. They went down and kicked the game-winning field goal. They're not going to get kicked out, no.
Speaking of the Big 12, how about Coach Prime? They're rolling.
They are rolling. And the one thing, his coaching staff, he's got a lot of ex-NFL guys on that staff. That offensive front has gotten progressively better and better and better as the season goes on. And Shedeur Sanders is thrown for 290 per game, 3 touchdowns weekly. He's got a great group of receivers, though some of them are now hurt with season-ending injuries. So they're going to go to a bowl game. And I think they're 7-2 now, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So he's kind of barking about why are we not rated higher? He's kind of, woe be us. Why are we not rated higher? So, but I don't think they're going to be in the college football playoff, but they're going to go to a marquee bowl game.
Well, I think there's a chance they could get in the playoff. I mean, because who's the top team in the Big 12 right now?
You got me?
Yes. I mean, I think it's anybody's game. I mean, I don't know, like if they are the runner-up or they don't make it to the final.
Well, they have to be either first or second to play in the championship game.
Exactly. So I think they have a good shot.
Yeah. Oklahoma State's been a huge disappointment. In fact, Mike Gundy, I think, could be in hot water down there. But the Big 12 is not what the Big 12 was before. It's just, I don't know if it's a down cycle weird year, but it's just been a strange college football season there. But we got, 4 more weeks here before the final poll comes out, and then we'll see who gets ranked where. Going to be interesting.
Going to be interesting. All right. Hey, let's get a few social medias we can squeeze in here. And, okay, this is good. This is from Dodger fan. This is Edster's World. The Dodgers don't need your congratulations or backhanded compliments, Lee. Go drink some warm milk and go back to sleep.
Edster, it's great to have you here, even if you're making that pitch from left field. That's okay. I got Padre fans who are lined up in the parking lot to bark at me too, because they think I've become a Dodger fan. And now you're barking at me because I saluted Dave Roberts. End of the day, they earned it. They deserve it. And it's going to be fun to see what they do next season. And now we have a real rivalry. Dodgers-Padres has now become a real rivalry. Dodger barking at me in San Diego in the offseason of all things.
I know. Because everyone is trying to figure out who you're a fan of.
And really, for everybody, I cover the whole bloody story.
But your team are the Indians, right?
We're the Cleveland Indians, yes.
And then maybe to a lesser degree, some of the New York teams.
Nah, I never was a Yankee or Met fan.
No,
I was the only kid I knew on Long Island. I grew up on Long Island. I was the only kid on Long Island that was not a Yankee or Met fan.
Okay, so you're the contrarian.
Yeah.
You're the one on Long Island rooting for the team in Ohio.
The Cleveland Indians. I like Chief Wahoo.
Yeah.
That logo. That's how I fell in love with the Indians.
Right on. Okay, let's keep moving here. We'll go here to the Padre comment from J.O. Cease's market value is $25 million annual. His performance is solid number one. If you don't pay him $14 million, he will take it to arbitration and likely win. The Padres don't want to pay Cease. They should move quickly to trade him. The contract as it stands is valuable. The Tigers, as an example, might be willing to give up MLB top 100 prospect like Chase Young or to add Cease.
Problem is, if you trade Cease and now you don't have Musgrove, now you got 2 major holes in your starting rotation. And how are you going to replace those guys? Cease in arbitration this year, the figure that I was told was 13.8. So they'll probably wind up giving him that. And hopefully he'll become a 30-start pitcher where he gives you a lot of trustworthy starts. Remember, pitched well, fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
They fixed his stride and the location of his glove and his delivery, pitched well, fumbled again, pitched well at the end, and then got misused, I thought, in postseason play. He'll be back, and he'll have one more year before he becomes a free agent, and then we'll see where they are in terms of how he pitches. But he deserves the bump because at 13.8, that's a pretty decent contract for a guy that's going to take the ball 30 times a year.
Plus, he threw a no-hitter for the Padres. So you got to bring him back and just pay him what he's worth.
Well, I don't think there's any debate that he'd go somewhere else. No, I don't think he's going to be traded.
But what's the deal with the Padres' finances? Because they're selling out Petco like every night.
Well, the question is, they're raking in so much money. At 56 sellouts, they drew a record $3.3 million. They have raised their ticket prices a combined 50% now over 4 years. I mean, the public is paying phenomenal amounts of money. They take all that money in. Is that to spend it for the future, or is that to wipe out the debt that A.J. Preller created over all the mistakes he made financially on contracts for years and years and years? There's a little bit of that going on there. I think they're taking a whole pile of this money to pay back to the Seidlers the amount of money they lost.
Yeah, there might be some of that going on, but even after a 50% ticket increase
over a 4-year window,
it's still probably cheaper than going to an Aztec game.
No, it's, but the Aztec prices are, I'm sorry, for football are just disgraceful.
Yeah.
Have we ever gotten an Aztec comment on social media or
not today? Not in the podcast.
Not ever.
It's been a while.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Fans turn their back on the program. Jeez, they screwed this thing up. Now, Cease will be back. King will be back. And then another question, where do they go get more pitching depth? Fascinating to see. But AJ knows. AJ's got boots on the ground everywhere. He'll find pitchers.
Okay, let's keep going here. We'll let's talk about the college football playoff. This is from Chris Owen saying every team is beatable this year. Matchups will determine who wins the title this year.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see how the final ranking comes out. Who's 1, who's 12, and then who plays who and who gets the buys. I mean, I have no doubt that some of these marquee games that we saw during the course of the regular season, I have no doubt we're going to see Oregon State again. We're going to see somebody play Penn State. I don't know where Georgia falls now. The Georgia's got 2 losses on the season. That bears watching. Does Alabama force its way back into the top 12? If they finish this thing on an upbeat note. But we still got a couple more weeks to go in the regular season, and you got the Ducks up there too, which bears watching.
So the first round of there's going to be buys for the top 4 teams.
Yes.
Right? And so the first round are going to be at a home stadium
this year,
but they're not going to be a bowl game, right?
No.
But when you get to the next round,
then they'll surface in, and the Rose Bowl is going to host a game, and the Fiesta Bowl will host maybe a second round or a semifinal game, things like that. Yes. Orange Bowl, Sugar Bowl, etc.
So it's only home field for that first initial round.
Yeah, and I don't like that. I think they should take the first round games, 5 versus 12, etc. Put it in the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah, I agree.
Put it in the Sun Bowl in El Paso, which is kind of a neat event.
Yeah.
Put it in some of these other bowls, the Peach Bowl, etc., and just incorporate them, because otherwise, the Holiday Bowl can sales pitch me. Yeah, we're going to have somebody who used to be in the Pac-12 against somebody from the ACC. Okay, but that's not sexy. But if it were a first-round playoff game, yeah. I mean, if you had Boise State coming in here to play the 5th team in the country, that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be Indiana.
Yeah, or somebody.
Yeah.
So that's the way to solve the problem, rather than have home field.
Yeah.
And the fans' responses, some people's responses, well, the hometown fan wouldn't want to travel for a first-round game. Indiana fan wouldn't want to come to San Diego for a first-round game with Boise. They'd save the money to get tickets for a second game. Okay, that's no problem. I'll guarantee a Boise fan will come, and I'll guarantee a San Diego football fan will come because it's Boise versus Indiana, if that's the 5-12 matchup.
Yeah. But, Indiana fan is going to go to every game possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the diehards, they'll fly for the first round, the second round, doesn't matter. They're there.
So that's how I would do it. I would not do home field advantage. Because the bowl games are suffering badly now, because now they've really become, I mean, what's the luster of the Rose Bowl if it's not in the playoffs?
Yeah.
You're not getting the top team in the Big Ten. There is no Pac-12 anymore. So make the Holiday Bowl and the Sun Bowl and the Peach Bowl, and, take those first round games, 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, put them into the bowl games, play them, keep these bowl games at the second tier alive and viable, And then you can take your Orange Bowl and your Sugar Bowl and your Rose Bowl and use them for the second round games, etc., before you get to the national championship. That's what I would do if I was king.
I'll sign that memo.
Damn it. All right, let's do one more here before we put a lid on this.
All right, let's go down here. Another Padre comment. And this is from Frank. He says, extend Merrill, extend King, keep a Rise for a season, keep Cease for the season, or trade him in the offseason, especially if the Padres did get Sasaki, sign Higgy to a 1 year and an option. Don't extend Profar unless it's team friendly. Pursue Sasaki as hard as possible. Hot take, trade Suarez and sign and extend Tanner Scott.
Every agent's got a dollar value on their guy. So Higgy's not coming back here for 1 year, 2.5 mil. Higgy's price tag might be 5. Well, you say, well, that's no problem. But if it's 5, 7, and 8, then it is a problem. The other guys, there's always additional dollars attached, and the agents are not bringing these guys back for the prices they played at last season. So it's a tough set of circumstances because you're going to have to move some money around. But obviously, tough decision with a Rise. The dollar value I was told is 14.8. He's a singles hitter without a position who doesn't run the bases well. That's a lot of money for a singles hitter. Now, if you could get him for 10, maybe you do that on a 1 year deal. But see, he earned 8 last year. Miami paid it all. So for him to go from 8 to 10 after winning another batting title, no, he's probably going to say, I want 8, I want to go to 12, or I want to go to 14. So the agents are always asking here, you're trying to do this here, and you still got all these other players out here on the periphery you still got to deal with. Tough call, especially if ownership says, no, we're not taking the payroll to $200 million.
I like Frank's hot take.
Frank's got opinion there.
Yeah, it's a good one. Trade Suarez.
I ever get fired, Frank will be doing the podcast with you. He'll be talking down to you too.
What's wrong with you? You should be more friendly around here. I want to get one more in from a Raider fan.
Oh, geez.
Because these guys are always coming after you. And this is from Tom Slick. He says, Lee Butterknife Hamilton has been bitter at the Chargers ever since he was fired as the play-by-play guy. He was terrible then. He's terrible with his sports takes. He's a Raider fan deep down. How they doing, Lee?
Tom, here's the question. If you dislike the host so much, what does it say about you that you are on this podcast every Monday and Thursday at 1 p.m.? So if you don't like the host, what does it say about you and your intellect level? No. Hey, history. I was not fired. The Chargers left our radio station, walked away from all the money we gave them after all the great things we did in broadcast. They went to 3 different radio stations and never, ever had the same package. They're not even on a big station in LA now. They're on a smaller FM station. So get your facts right. Never let the facts get in the way of a distorted opinion. What I do works. What I do has been very successful, as witnessed by the fact Raider Nation fan is here expressing opinions to me. Raiders are a disaster. A lot of work ahead of them. I mean, I hate to throw cold water on you because it's kind of chilly outside, but they have no quarterback. They have no running back. They traded Devontae Adams. I think they have a substandard offensive line. And I'm not sure they got the right head coach. They got a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be solved in 15 minutes, and it's not going to be solved in one off season. It's not going to be solved by one draft. I've always had marquee names. I've had names in starlights, and you thought, wow, this is really going to cook. I thought, when they had Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs, I said, they're turning the corner. And all those guys are gone. And Mark Davis is still the owner. And should I tell him his team is 2-7? Or does he know his team is 2-7?
They're a disgrace.
Me or him?
Both.
Oh. Now, Tom, that's where we are. Raiders got a long road ahead. And I apologize in advance. Their colors are silver and bleak. I mean, they've had no success in the last decade. Not in Vegas on the field, not in Oakland at the tail end of the Al Davis regime. You just had to do that so I'd blow a gasket, get all the cholesterol flushed out of my system, and I'd be healthy and good to go. Right?
What you do is interesting because you are always coming out with one man's opinion and hot takes, and you've got an angle on everything, and you're trying to predict the future. And these guys are armchair quarterbacks on Monday morning.
In the rearview rearview mirror.
in the rearview mirror. So it's easy to criticize it when you make a hot take that doesn't work out. But I'm thinking, like, even in the national news, I don't know if there's really anybody like you, like that reports on, the non-sports news.
Howard Cosell passed away a long time ago.
Yeah, he was kind of in that category. I
He
agree.
was the first one to ever do it. And I thought, first time I ever met him in spring training, I said, boy, is this guy bombastic. This guy's good. Got to listen to what this guy says. Don't agree with what the man says, but God, he made Monday Night Football must-see TV just because you wondered, what the hell is he going to say next?
So that was an inspiration for you, Howard Cosell.
I didn't realize it back then, but yeah, probably now. Exactly.
Kind of cool. One thing I liked about Cosell is his relationship with Muhammad Ali.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of get in there and they start fighting. But I mean, he was an interesting dude. He was buddies with John Lennon too.
He was a lawyer.
That's right.
He's an unbelievable intellect. He always called me young man. Young man. I asked him, ran into him at spring training over in Yuma. And I said, Howard, I grew up on Long Island. I watched you in the early days when you were in New York on WABC. And I said, I'd love to spend 10, 15 minutes with you just talking sports, going to do an interview for my West Coast talk show. Well, young man, when I get done talking to such and such, I'd be glad to sit down with you. So why don't you meet me in about 15 minutes, young man? And of course, a lot of people don't know he was 6'4".
Oh, really?
And he had a big booming voice. God, I wish I had his pipes. But he'd speak and the world would stop and listen. I liked him. He was different. I didn't always agree with him, but that's okay. And then after a while, I understood there was a lot of theatrics to what he did.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm like him, I guess that works.
It works.
Raider Tom doesn't agree, but that's okay. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed